what we as a nation, the choices we have to make is like this. And we decline, we are often complaining, you know, that the debt problem, that we are in a debt distress, we are in a debt crisis and so on. But how does the debt arise? Debt arises because year after year, we have expenditure plans that are like the ones presented now, $1 trillion, 1.2 trillion more than the resources that are expected to be raised in that year. So, for instance, if you look at the presentation now, 3.6 trillion vis-a-vis an expected 2.89
trillion to be raised by carry.
To be raised by carry.
Yes.
Now that gap, they are going to have to borrow it. Yeah, and that 2.89 trillion, you can see is very aggressive, because it's saying, for instance, you think about it like from a business person's point of view. If you will be paying 3 times more in dividend tax, why would you invest? And that is assuming that your business is profitable. You are paying more on excise tax, for example, on mobile phones, you know, which is the main means of communication. You are
expenses.
The expenses are higher, fuel is higher, and so on. And if at the end of all of that, you do manage to make some money, some little profit, then you distribute the profit to your shareholders, we'll tax that 3 times.
But before that, you pay corporation tax on the profit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if there is anything left to distribute to the shareholders, who are the investors, you will tax that 3 times. Why would they invest?
In effect, then the profit is taxed to the shareholder 45%, because there is 30% corporation tax on the net profit. Yes. Then the net profit, if you decide to distribute, another 15%.
Yeah.
So 45. So I mean, that who is going to be in that environment?
All right, but the argument of this administration is this, that we have to raise these funds internally as opposed to borrowing externally, because they say what is choking us at this moment is the debt that has been accrued this far. David D talked about the interest on these loans, that these loans are coming into maturity in this financial year.
What is choking us is their incompetence. Yeah, and first of all, frankly, some of us believe, because these men and women are not new to running government. I mean, it's as though they are out on a scheme, frankly, to destroy it. Look, the total debt is 50-50, roughly. 50% domestic, 50% foreign. The total amount of interest payments on domestic debt are 3 times. So if you take the Kenya shilling amount of how much you pay, 3 times the total amount paid in external debt. Why? Because domestic interest rates are right now at 11, 12, 14, 15%. They know this. So to really keep on, first of all, lying to the country and bringing up excuses is really reprehensible. They know this. Now, what is the solution? What is the way out of it? The way out of it is to reduce interest rates on domestic short-term debt. But what they're doing every week, if you look at the Treasury bill auction, is to borrow on the short-term end of the market, so 90-day Treasury bills. In fact, that's all the market is willing to lend them, and to borrow at even higher and higher and higher rates. And that's what is called debt distress. So they're not making, you know, if you're in a hole, you have to stop digging. And the way to stop digging this hole, first of all, is to dial down on the domestic interest rates, particularly on short-term debt. And if you do so, you first of all reduce the debt service amount, the interest that you're paying. You avail perhaps the opportunity to change the nature of the debt, because you can then sell cheaper debt to replace older, more expensive debt. If you do so, you also make it easier for the same private sector that you are trying to tax to death to have access to affordable credit, perhaps, that then they can attempt to produce. So, but what we are hearing from our colleagues on a daily basis, frankly, is excuse after excuse, is an approach to this matter in a don't care attitude, and It is a deliberate attempt, in my view, to make the situation worse. If we could not afford the budget at 3.2 trillion, how will we afford it at 3.6 trillion?
We were told